a young man killed the last dragon in the world. He forged the dragon's bones into an unmatched sword, then bathed in dragon blood, making his skin invulnerable. Unexpectedly, a falling leaf landed on his back, becoming his only weakness. The story takes place in medieval Europe. The Huns advanced westward, war engulfing various peoples. The proud kingdom of Burgundy fought for survival. Their king set out to defend the nation's borders. Unexpectedly, he was ambushed during the march. An arrow pierced his heart. His body was soon returned to the capital. Marshal Hagen, unable to protect the king, was filled with remorse. Princess Kriemhild noticed his guilt. She privately comforted Hagen. Father's death wasn't your fault. Hagen gazed at the woman he loved, suppressing his feelings. He vowed to always protect the royal family. Soon after, Crown Prince Gunther ascended the throne. The kingdom of Burgundy was surrounded by threats. They urgently needed powerful allies. The easiest way to form an alliance was through marriage. The princes debated this matter endlessly. Finally, King Gunnar made a decision. He would marry his sister Kriemhild to Ardo of Lombardy. Ardo's wife had recently died in childbirth. By allying with Lombardy, they could strengthen Burgundy's eastern borders. Gunnar planned to marry off his sister in the summer. Though Hagen felt bitter, he obeyed the king's orders. He privately informed Kriemhild, hoping she would be prepared. The princess knew that allying with the east had been her father's wish. Therefore, she did not oppose the marriage. That night, thunder and lightning filled the sky. 11 foreign cavalrymen camped outside the city gates. They bore no banners, appearing as wandering warriors. Though they remained outside the city, everyone sensed danger. The next morning, several strangers arrived at the gates. The princess observed them from hiding. She noticed that one cloaked man's face could change at will. Gunther received the lead knight, learning he was Siegfried, son of King Siegmund. The two nations had once been allies. Young and impetuous, Siegfried immediately challenged Gunther to a duel. The people blocked the king, as Burgundians never fought alone. They were a united family. If Siegfried wished to challenge the king, he had to defeat everyone first. Siegfried wasn't foolish enough to fight a group alone. Gunther arranged guest rooms for Siegfried's party. However, the princess felt uneasy about the cloaked man. Those eyes were not human. Kriemhild recalled legends of ancient rulers. There were nocturnal creatures said to invade human dreams. To ease the princess's worries, Hagen monitored Siegfried's men at night. They drank and made merry, showing no caution. Only the cloaked man hurried into an alley, disappearing into a dark warehouse. Hagen pursued and caught him, finding only a few tattered bags. At that moment, a drunken Siegfried stumbled out of his room. Hagen warned him, "There's no place for you here. Take your men and leave immediately." But that midnight, Hagen was plagued by nightmares. The next day, a white horse went wild. Kriemhild chased after it. Concerned for her safety, Hagen followed swiftly. The princess failed to catch the horse. She confided in Hagen that she didn't want to marry far away. In the following days, Siegfried claimed to have had a prophetic dream. It foretold that Queen Brunhild of Iceland possessed the power to cast spells from the other side of the world. Everyone turned solemn upon hearing this. But the next moment, Siegfried laughed heartily, as if it had been a joke. During this time, Kriemhild stayed in the women's quarters. The flirtatious Siegfried insisted on meeting the princess. He barged into her room and was promptly expelled. Meanwhile, Siegfried's jokes at the dining table unsettled Gunnar. He longed to meet Queen Brunhild of Iceland. Hagen advised the king not to trust Siegfried. He suggested keeping the princess at home. Even without allies, Burgundy was strong. Gunther trusted Hagen and decided to cancel the marriage plan. Unexpectedly, the next day, a corpse was found outside the city, stabbed to death. Hagen received the news and reported to the king. The Saxons and Danes had rebelled. They had reached the vicinity of the Rhine River. Burgundy was now isolated and helpless. The king instructed Hagen to speak with Siegfried, hoping the valiant warrior would join the battlefield. If he agrees, Gunther is willing to marry the princess dam. For the sake of Burgundy, Hagen has no choice but to carry out the king's order. Hagen went to the guest palace, but found only the cloaked man. He's a dwarf named Alberich. He noticed the dragon's scar on Hagen. He said Siegfried had slain the dragon, bathed in its blood to become invulnerable, and forged the dragon's bones into the sword Baumam. However, during the bath, a leaf landed on his back, becoming Siegfried's only weak spot, before Hagen could return to the palace. Siegfried had already sought the king's permission, promising to wield Baumam for Burgundy. Before the great battle, Hagen went to bid farewell to the princess. Kriemhild had learned that Hagen had persuaded the king to cancel the marriage. She questioned Hagen about why he had made her stay, but Hagen never expressed his true feelings. The next day, They advanced rapidly along the Rhine Valley. Hagen quickly devised a battle plan. He pointed out that although the Saxons and Danes were brave, they lacked discipline. Therefore, their troops must maintain order. Siegfried paid no heed. He always believed in winning through strength. Late at night, Hagen saw Siegfried ride into the woods. The next morning, he returned carrying the Saxon king's head. The enemy, having lost their leader, became demoralized. Siegfried drew Bombong and led the charge. The soldiers ignored Hagen's orders and followed Siegfried into battle. Hagen was forced to keep up with the army. Although Siegfried was invincible, the other soldiers were mere flesh and blood. The best archer under Hagen's command was killed in battle due to Siegfried's reckless charge. Hagen, desperate to save his men, was also struck blind in one eye. Hagen was distracted and lost his left eye. Siegfried saved Hagen in time. The war ended in victory. The heroic Siegfried was worshipped by the people. Meanwhile, Kriemhild tended to the unconscious Hagen, but the public celebration was too loud. Kriemhild rushed into the crowd, warning Siegfried not to disturb the peace of the fallen. But Siegfried believed death was part of war. He refused to mourn in silence. He proposed that Alberich could heal Hagen. When Alberich touched Hagen, he also awakened Hagen's buried memories. Hagen was actually from the kingdom of Tranche. When the old king of Burgundy took him in, he claimed a dragon had destroyed his homeland. But that was not the truth. Alberich revealed it was war that had razed Hagen's home. It was the great dragon who had saved Hagen. That's why Hagen bore the dragon's claw marks. Once Hagen awoke, he went to see the fallen soldiers. At the grave, Siegfried said bluntly, even given another chance, he would change nothing. When Kriemhild learned Siegfried had no lust for power, her heart was completely won. She had given Hagen a chance, but he never voiced his love. The princess followed Siegfried outside the city and saw ruins of ancient war. Kriemhild had always wondered why Alberich followed Siegfried. Siegfried explained, because he killed Alberich's master, the last dragon in the world. As the princess and Siegfried spent each day together, their relationship deepened rapidly. Meanwhile, the Huns united and advanced step by step. Their leader, Etzel, led troops to defeat the Lombards. Burgundy needed powerful allies to fight alongside them. Gunther still longed for Queen Brunhild of Iceland, hoping to win with the help of ancient divine powers. His second brother believed Gunther was bewitched by Alberich, which is why he remained obsessed with Brunhild. So while Siegfried was away, he locked Alberich in a cage. Hagen, upon learning this, went to see Alberich. He told him, if you want freedom, tell the story of the Queen of Iceland. Alberich explained, everything distant and unreachable tempts Siegfried. So when he heard the legend of Brunhild's invincibility, he immediately went to Eisenstein to meet her. Unexpectedly, the two developed feelings for each other and spent a full year together. But in the end, Siegfried still chose to leave, breaking Brunhild's heart. Yet Siegfried still loved her deeply. The next day, Hagen went to Kriemhild to urge her to stay away from Siegfried. Instead, he learned they planned to marry. Kriemhild knew Hagen didn't trust Siegfried, but if they married, Siegfried would fully become part of Burgundy. So Hagen, for the sake of Burgundy, no longer opposed it. Kriemhild asked him to speak favorably to Gunther. Hagen followed the princess's instruction, and Gunther approved the marriage. However, he added one condition. If Siegfried wanted to marry Kriemhild, he must first win the heart of Queen Brunhild. If Burgundy could gain this Valkyrie, they could surely repel the Huns. In order to marry the princess, Siegfried suppressed his anger and agreed to Gunther's request. Soon after, the fleet set sail for Eisenstein, but they were struck by a storm. Nearly all of Gunther's attendants drowned. Siegfried had been there once before, so he knew the queen's rules. He told Hagen to lay down his weapons and follow a general named Senua to meet the queen. Their castle lay beneath a volcano. As soon as they entered the gate, they were thrown into sacks and beaten. When Hagen regained consciousness, Gunther and Siegfried were gone. Only Senua stood nearby. Hagen quickly explained their king only wished to marry the queen, but to win her heart, one had to defeat her. So all challengers became skeletons. Soon, Gunther appeared, clearly enchanted by the queen, holding a sword she had given him. Gunther declared he would fight for the queen with this sword. Hagen didn't want Gunther to die, so he planned to take him away at dawn. But when Gunther refused to leave, Siegfried admitted, even he couldn't defeat the queen. However, Alberich had a way. The three went to a nearby cave. Alberich took blood from Hagen's and Gunther's arms and cut Siegfried's back. Hagen realized this was the fatal weak spot. Then Alberich mixed the three men's blood and pushed Siegfried and Hagen into the water. As they neared drowning, Gunther drank the blood in one gulp. Thus, he temporarily gained the strength of both Siegfried and Hagen. Gunther left the cave to issue the challenge. At sinuous signal, Brunhild struck first, but Gunther now wielded the power of both Siegfried and Hagen. During the battle, Brunhild saw Siegfried's eyes through Gunther's face, momentarily dazed. She was wounded by Gunther's strike. Gunther claimed victory. Siegfried and Hagen woke up from the pool. The divine power also left Gunther. Brunhild honored her bet. She departed with her people. Soon, their group arrived in Burgundy, but the city was in decay. The Huns had attacked one step ahead of Gunther. The Burgundians couldn't hold the borders. Hagen's men fled in all directions. All the village men hid, afraid of conscription. Now the only way was for Brunhild's soldiers to join the battle. So both couples held weddings on the same day. Hagen smiled, watching the happy princess. But Siegfried and Brunhild exchanged a deep look. After the wedding, the queen realized Gunther was a liar. She beat up Siegfried on the training grounds to vent her anger. But with the enemy at the gates, she accepted her fate. On the night before the battle, Hagen saw the troops fearful and wailing, clearly frightened by the Huns. So he rallied morale, told the soldiers to put their hope in Brunhild. The Valkyrie would protect those willing to die. Even in death, souls would reach the Hall of Gods under her guidance. On the day of battle, not one soldier fled. The invincible queen charged first, slaughtering the Huns. The army collapsed like a landslide. Etzel had no choice but to retreat. Amid the wild celebration of victory, Siegfried was once again drawn to Brunhild. The next day, Gunther received news of victory. The last Huns were driven from the borders. The war was over. Siegfried and Brunhild flirted openly. Hagen could allow their antics outside, but he had to remind Siegfried, "You fled your father. I lost my home. Burgundy is now our shared homeland. When we return, you must be loyal to Kriemhild." Siegfried embraced Hagen, promising to treat the princess well. Burgundy returned to peaceful days, but Siegfried didn't like the peace. His followers also bid farewell one by one. Siegfried repeatedly asked Kriemhild to explore the world with him, but Kriemhild was a princess of Burgundy. She wouldn't leave her people. Meanwhile, Siegfried sensed Gunther's attitude shifting, because Siegfried's achievements overshadowed the king. On the other hand, Gunther already noticed Siegfried's bond with Brunhild. At the celebration banquet, Siegfried disrespected one of Gunther's younger brothers. Gunther erupted in fury, scolded Siegfried, and humiliated him as his vassal. Their relationship deteriorated further. Gunther was tormented by jealousy and rage. Even Hagen was questioned when he tried to mediate. Gunther started doubting Hagen's loyalty. Then he told Hagen that last night, Brunhild rode out of the city. He followed her secretly and saw her meeting Siegfried in private. Hearing this, Hagen finally lost his temper and asked where Siegfried was. Gunther said, "Who knows? He comes and goes as he pleases." Even Kriemhild didn't know her husband's whereabouts. Her tears meant nothing to Siegfried, and Siegfried didn't care about the Burgundians' admiration. He was a drifter. He would never change for anyone. Hagen understood the king's message. Siegfried would eventually break the family order. To prevent that day, Hagen had to kill him. That day, Hagen invited Siegfried to hunt deer in the forest. They soon brought down a white stag. In the palace, Kriemhild awoke with a start, a vague sense of doom rising in her heart. Meanwhile, Hagen had a chance to assassinate Siegfried from behind while he washed his hands. But instead, he threw bombing to Siegfried, asking for a fair duel. Although Siegfried was invulnerable to weapons, Hagen's relentless training gradually pushed Siegfried back. Hagen forced Siegfried into a ravine and held him under the water. But Siegfried grabbed his sword from the river and stabbed Hagen's thigh. Wounded, Hagen fell into disadvantage. A cold blade pressed against his throat. He closed his eyes, resigned to death. At that moment, Gunther suddenly appeared. He stabbed Siegfried in the back shoulder and killed him. Hagen got up and told Gunther to leave quickly to avoid being seen, because a king could not kill a hero. After Gunther left, Hagen saw Alberich standing not far away. But as he walked over, the shadow turned into a dead tree. Soon after, Hagen returned to the city with Siegfried's corpse. He announced he had killed him in a duel. Pregnant Kriemhild was devastated. Brunhild let out a grief-stricken roar. Hagen became the public enemy of all. Kriemhild cursed Hagen to live long enough to serve Siegfried's son as he grew up. That would be the cruelest punishment for him.